Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Saturday morning Stokastic NHL Strategy Show, sponsored by BetMGM. I'm your host, Josh Harris. Joining me, as always, on this lovely Saturday morning is my co-host, Slim Cliffy. How you doing today?
Not too bad. Not bad at all. Weather's not as nice as it's been pretty much all week. We got quite a bit of rain here this morning, so might not be a bad day to spend indoors and watch some hockey because we got hockey all day long. It seems like the NHL finally figured out Saturday scheduling. There have been times in years gone by where King Bacon Pie is excited about the NHL today too.
He's down here today. Just the dogs. We'll let him do his thing.
Yeah, no, it's just the NHL usually sometimes they would have 2 games start at 1 Eastern, and then that would be it. And then there'd be a 3-hour gap until the late games start. But it seems like so far this season, at least, they figured out to stagger games all afternoon. So we have games starting right from 1 Eastern, and it'll go till 1 a.m. Eastern. So pretty big day of hockey.
He doesn't know how to keep the bone on the couch. He's an NPC. But anyway, last night was quite a weird one. Not too many teams. The winning lineup was a Dallas Stars power play stack, and they only scored, I think, once. I mean, Jamie Benn scored twice, but Dallas 1 really didn't do too much. Toronto 1 didn't do too much. Pittsburgh 1 didn't do too much. Washington didn't do too much. The late game was 1-0. Really low scoring slate, and for the amount of star power, it really wasn't the best slate. We did have some winners in our Discord, which was nice. We had DJ Weeze. Looks like he took down the $4 whatever that's called on DraftKings for 2,000. I forget what it's called because it's been so bad, but 2,000 is a nice top prize there. Congrats to you. And then Pock or Poke, I don't know how to say that correctly, but he said he shipped the quarter on the dime time and finished 6th and 10th in the hip check. Very impressive. Congrats to y'all. How'd you do last night?
Didn't cash. I got Jake Ottinger. I think like a lot of people, depending on the contest, he might have been about in 1/3 of entries. He got absolutely shelled last night. 13 saves on 18 shots. That's usually not going to cut it in DFS. Had some Pittsburgh guys. I had Mulligan. I had Gensel. Gensel got the empty netter. So I could have got there. I could have at least cashed with a better goalie. But such is the life of living a single entry. Sometimes your goalie just won't get there. In fact, goalie tilt is one thing that NHL DFSers can really kind of all relate to at some point or another. But that's just kind of the way it goes. How'd you do?
Yeah, I used a Leafs power play stack, and it seemed fine going into the third period. You know, they scored late in the second, Nylander from Riley and Marner. The Leafs had 3 shots in the third period in a tie game. 2 from Morgan Riley, 1 from Michael Bunting. Absolute fraudulent scenes from the Leafs last night. They're back at it tonight against the jersey you're wearing, the Canucks, who also made some power play changes, which is a sad scene.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second, but we have thoughts. We definitely have thoughts.
We do have some thoughts. While I have you here, I'm sure the people joining in right now are some hardcore. It's 9 a.m. on a Saturday. We appreciate you stopping by. But if you haven't liked and subscribed, we would appreciate it so you can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. Once you subscribe, hit the notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. Sometimes I forget when shows go live, so the bell reminds me. Don't forget, almost all of our content is available in podcast form on the platform of your choice. That is very nice. So if you're, you can't see the shows live and you're driving home from work, stuck in traffic, pop it on your favorite platform. Help us out by leaving a 5-star review. We have an 11-gamer tonight. Pretty big slate, some pretty big totals, some pretty fun matchups, some pretty annoying lineup changes. So let's hop into it. We have the Boston Bruins with a 3.8 total. Going into Buffalo, the Sabres have a 2.9 total. Obviously, it is 9 in the morning Eastern time. We don't have, morning skates are probably starting within the next half an hour or so. So we'll just take a guess on the lines here, or not really guess, our educated guesses here. I would imagine both of these teams are going to go status quo with their lines. That being said, I will be interested to see the ownership on the Bruins here, because this is a pretty good matchup. They didn't perform great for DFS in their last game, but I think this is a Boston game for me.
Yeah. Buffalo did practice yesterday, and they kind of changed up their lines after that beatdown from Vegas when Jack Eichel went in and just put on an absolute clinic. They moved Alex Tuch back to the top line with Thompson and Skinner, and they put Dylan Cousins with Jack Quinn and JJ Peterka. Now, usually Cousins is the guy they use in a shutdown role at home. With Boston coming in town, I can't imagine they're going to put Peterka and Quinn with Cousins out against the Marchand, Bergeron, DeBrusk line, right? I think this might be a game where we actually see Buffalo's top line of Thompson, Tuch, Skinner go against the opposing top line. And as good offensively as Tuch and Skinner and Thompson are together, and they have been very good offensively going back to last year, like we're talking well north, 3 goals per 60 minutes, 5-on-5. It's obviously a brutal matchup going up against Boston's top line. They have looked pretty good in a small sample. I would just note that a lot of Boston's scoring since Marchand has returned has been either on the power play or with the empty net. The 5-on-5 really hasn't gotten there yet. Obviously, they're going to get there eventually. They're too talented not to. But I just thought it would be worth pointing that out. Tage Thompson obviously is one of the biggest stories of these early parts of the season. He's been on an absolute tear. His shot attempts per minute have gone up about 33% from last year, and he was already a pretty big volume shooter. So, I don't really hate the idea of going to Buffalo here tonight. Obviously, we don't have complete ownership runs yet. I imagine they're going to be pretty low owned. Maybe you can catch Boston kind of napping a little bit coming into Buffalo, but I think you're right. For most people, this would be about a Boston 1 stack. Now, Boston 1's still projecting very, very well for us. We have them projected, I think, for over 37 DK points in our early run. So obviously they're carrying a monster projection here. Buffalo also has a pretty bad penalty kill, not awful, but definitely not good or great. And I think the Boston top power play unit can really take advantage of that. So I'm in on the Boston top line, Bergeron, Marchand, and DeBrusk. If you want to take off Marchand and add Pasternak, or take off DeBrusk and add Pasternak or whatever, I think that's perfectly fine, especially where DeBrusk's price has come up quite a bit. He's all the way up to 7,000 on DK. I think it might almost be worth the extra 2,000 just to pay up for Pasternak and then pay down a one-year defenseman or something like that. So some sort of Boston power play stack is probably what I like best in this game. I don't think I'm going to get to any of the depth from Buffalo. I don't want to play Cousins with Quinn and Peterka. I don't want to play Middlestat and Olofsson. They've typically been pretty low event. and Boston's a really good defensive team. So if you're going to go anywheres on the Buffalo side, I would just go right to the top line. But I agree with you. I think the target in this game should be the Boston power play guys.
Yeah, I agree there. And I see in our YouTube chat, Daniel Demers took second in the DK 1K quarter jukebox. Congrats to you. That is a great night. It's hard to get into the top of the jukebox. So congrats to you. I also see people asking if I'm caffeinated yet. I have not had caffeine since that Harry Carey episode. I actually have more energy when I don't drink caffeine. Getting off caffeine is the hard part. But yeah, let's move to the blue line. Rasmus Dahlin, 7,800. His price has come down. He's kind of in that range where, like, I'm not going to force him in. But if I have the salary, I think it's fine. I probably would rather just play Yossi, but I think Dahlin's fine. Charlie McAvoy still 5,200. He's the guy I'm looking at. Maybe Owen Power. That's about it.
Yeah. Just not a lot of, like, obviously McAvoy's still perfectly fine. Him not getting to the top power play kind of takes a little bit of quite a bit of upside away from his fantasy profile. So I think like 5,200 without those top PP minutes feels fair actually. So yeah, don't mind him. Probably not a lot on the Buffalo side for me. Like Jacob Bryson's price starting to get up there a little bit. Tough matchup. I agree with you. Like maybe Power. But obviously this isn't a spot where I'm really excited about any of the defensemen.
I would have to think eventually McAvoy starts taking some power play one time. I think they just wanted to work him in just to make sure he stays healthy throughout the game. Maybe he's, slowly works his way in. So for 5,200, I think that's fine. Let's move on to the next one. Vancouver Canucks 2.8 total. Heading into Toronto, the Frauds have a 3.8. The Leafs have a 3.8 total. Back-to-back for the Leafs, which means Kallgren went last night. Probably going to be, I don't know is Matt Murray going to be back for this game?
No. They said he's not going to be playing. So it's either Kallgren on a back-to-back or Keith Petruzzelli.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. I listen, for whatever, well, we know why. Toronto has a big total. Matthews line's going to get ownership. The one thing I don't like about Vancouver tonight is that they took off Kuzmenko off the power play and moved Besser to that top unit. Vancouver is one of those teams that is heavily reliant on scoring on the power play, really besides the Pettersson line, which Kuzmenko's on. And that kind of ruins the power play correlation. They also moved Niels Höglander to the second line with Kuzmenko and Pettersson. They moved Ilya Mikheyev up with JT Miller. And like you said in chat, I know why they did it. It still sucks. And it does because, that second line was humming on all cylinders. Höglander there, he's a shooter. I like him offensively. I don't know what he's going to do defensively. I like Vancouver on the side more than Toronto. Maybe Toronto comes on a bit lower owned because they burned everybody last night, but I think I'm on Vancouver here.
Yeah, it is like we should mention about the power play. I think Vancouver had 2 power plays in that game against Montreal. The first one, Kuzmenko was on it. The second one, Kuzmenko was not. Maybe they were just trying to mix something up for the team, when they were down late in the game or something like that. So like maybe Kuzmenko stayed on the power play, but this was something they did earlier in the season when Best was healthy, is they were kind of flip-flopping back and forth a little bit. That's a bit of a concern for me because, with Höglander there now on the second line, all of a sudden only one of those guys would be on the power play. And as you said, they are fairly power play reliant. I want to talk about the Toronto side real quick. So last night, Toronto, they moved around their lines a fair bit. They started with Alex Kerfoot on the top line, and then Michael Bunting went there for like 5 or 6 shifts. And then they finished the last couple shifts of the game with Nylander there as they were trying to get a goal. I think Bunting goes back to the top line here tonight. Again, we'll see when warmups hit. Toronto won't have a morning skate. We don't have any more information right now. But one thing I want to bring up, there's a website called Hockey Viz, and you can see visually where teams and players are taking their shots from. And I want to bring up Toronto One's shots from last year at 5-on-5 and Toronto One's shots from this year at 5-on-5. They're virtually identical. The left is last year. The right is this year. They're just shooting a ton from anywhere from the low to high slot. They're just not finishing. That's the only thing that's going on here. The top line shooting 5.4% at 5-on-5. Eventually, they do have to break. Yeah, eventually they do have to break through though, and kind of find themselves or find the success that they had last year. I can't think of a better spot to do it than Vancouver. With the Canucks in town, they're going to be going out against that JT Miller line, I assume. Miller, Besser. Now they moved Mikheyev there, Ilya Mikheyev, and I think that's a pretty good move for that line. It'll help them at both ends of the ice. But Miller, yeah, that too. Mikheyev's first game back in Toronto. But Miller and Besser typically not very good defensively. 2.8 expected goals against per 60 minutes going back to last year, 2.8 actual goals against, and that was with Demko playing a lot better in the second half of the season last year as well. I think you can go right back to Toronto One here. And like you said, where they got burned, where people got burned last night, where people have been getting burned by them all season. I wonder if we don't see some low-ish type ownership on them here. I think I might be back in on Toronto One. It feels bad to say, but the Vancouver penalty kill has been very bad this year. The Toronto power play, again, has been pretty good. It's just a 5-on-5 that they need to turn around. I think it's a pretty good 5-on-5 matchup for them. On the flip side, Vancouver too, Pettersson, Kuzmenko with Hoglander. I think that's a good, which should be a low-owned trio on the Vancouver side. They'll get that Toronto second line, which didn't play well again last night, which we said is very high event, can allow a lot of shots defensively. So I don't mind Vancouver too. It's kind of like a contrarian road stack here tonight. But I think Toronto One might be near the top of my list for this evening.
Yeah. I want to agree with you that they're going to be contrarian, but I think Vancouver is going to have ownership tonight. One, the Leafs lost last night. They're playing again. Now they're either going to have their third stringer on a back-to-back or their fourth stringer making his NHL debut. So, and they've had issues defensively. So I think there's going to be ownership on Vancouver tonight. That being said, I do like them. I think, depending on ownership on Toronto One, I think you can go back to them. Like they're always going to have ownership. Maybe they won't be like 15, 20%. Maybe they'll be like, 8 to 12, and that'll be fine. But this is a game I'm very interested in seeing our ownership runs on. Moving to the blue line, Quinn Hughes, Morgan Riley. It's kind of like the same thing. They need to shoot more. But I think you can put them in with some power play stacks if you want. Ethan Bear, 3,100 is probably the punt target for me.
Yeah, don't mind Bear again. We'll say Timothy Liljegren got over 18 minutes last night. I haven't double checked. I think his ice time has increased every game since he's returned. We keep saying it. Pretty good offensive defenseman. They have him priced all the way down to 2,500 on DK here tonight. If you can get 18, 19 minutes in this matchup, Liljegren probably one of my favorite punts, full punts here on the slate tonight.
For sure. Forgot about him. He just the Leafs blue line is just leaves so much to be desired. You forget who's on it sometimes.
Yeah, I hear you.
Let's move on to the next one, shall we? Pittsburgh Penguins with a 3.7 total heading into Montreal. The Canadiens have a 3 total. Pittsburgh back-to-back on the road with a monster total here. Casey DeSmith went last night. Would imagine it's going to be Yari tonight. Montreal, probably Jake Allen. Pittsburgh one didn't do too much. They hit the empty net last night. And as you talked about on the show yesterday, they hit the empty net more than almost any other line in the league, up there with Winnipeg 1 and Boston 1. This is a good spot to go back to them. They are pricey. They're still over 20,000, but this is a very, very good power play spot. That being said, Montreal, they're probably not going to have much ownership. Pittsburgh's penalty kill has been poopers, but Montreal's power play has not been exciting. That being said, the top line is fully correlated on the power play. Is this another Montreal one night?
I mean, the first thing that came to my brain looking at this game was going back to Pittsburgh 1. Now, the Montreal top line has typically really struggled defensively. Going back to the changes with Martin St. Louis last year, but Kirby Dach looks like he's really kind of stabilized that line, at least defensively, so far this season. Dach has been, I think easily the best defensive Montreal forward so far this season. He's really noticeable every time you watch him. Like, this is a line that's usually at like 3.5 expected goals against per 60 minutes, and they're down to 1.9 with Dach on their line. Like, they've been really locking things down defensively. The problem with Montreal, one, they're shooting 26% at 5-on-5.
The Coyotes stretch last year.
It is absolutely ludicrous, their shooting percentage, which is why they're scoring so much. Like, to put it into kind of frame of reference, half of their shooting percentage at 5-on-5, 13%, would put them as one of the most efficient lines in the entire NHL for the season, right? So, like, they're running way, way, way too hot to be able to sustain this over any kind of stretch, and they need to start generating more offense, and they just aren't doing it. And they get that Pittsburgh top line, Russ, Gensel, Crosby. Sure, it's a back-to-back, but Crosby's typically played pretty well whenever he goes to Montreal. It looks like his game finds another level when he gets there. That top line, only 2.2 expected goals against per 60 minutes, 3.64. Really, really good. All on power play 1. The power play looks decent with them. Montreal has a bad penalty kill. I think you're fine to go back to Pittsburgh too. Malkin has quietly been excellent this year. Maybe the points don't show massive production, but one of the biggest scoring chance contributors in the league. The last time I looked at the numbers, top 5 amongst all forwards in the NHL. And that Montreal second line, just not that good defensively. 3.3 expected goals against going back to last year with Mike Hoffman there. So if you want to try to avoid a better Montreal defensive top line with Kirby Dach there, I think you're perfectly fine going back down to Pittsburgh too. I think it's the Pittsburgh side that interests me most in this game.
Yeah. I agree. They're back-to-back on the road, so maybe their ownership is a bit lower. Montreal 1, always an interesting case. Like, it was like with Arizona, that 1-month stretch last year where they just shot the lights out. You got to kind of ride the wave until it crashes. When it crashes, don't know. But yeah, on the blue line, here we are with Letang again. Like, I don't think you have to add him in on power play stacks. I don't think you have to one-off him. But if you want to, go for it. Jeff Petrie up to 5K. I think he's okay at that price.
Revenge game.
Yeah, he's gonna get all his old creaky bones up for Montreal tonight in Montreal. On the Montreal side, there just isn't much. Joel Edmondson up to 4,700. Like, Jonathan Kovacevic still min price, but not much here.
Yeah, not one of the spots where I'm really going to grab my defenseman. Not min price, but fairly cheap Jack guy. He's been up to 19 minutes a couple times in his last 4 or 5 games, so maybe he can get there. He might be the only guy I would kind of consider here tonight. It'd be going to the cheap punt guys. I don't think I'm paying up for any of the blue liners.
Yeah, it's not my favorite game for the blue line. Hey guys, do you want 2 free months of Stokastic Platinum? Yeah, Stokastic plus Platinum and up to $1,000 risk. Then, oh boy, do we have some heart. Just kidding, I got you. But we have a very good deal with BetMGM here, so you can get 2 free months of Stokastic Platinum. Wow, I can't even say that. And 1,000 risk-free bet with BetMGM when you sign up, make a deposit, and make your first paid wager. Very easy. Create a Stokastic membership using the form below, or log in with your account. Most people have an account, but if you don't, just follow the steps in the description. Click the large BetMGM button that appears after registering or logging in, then complete the necessary steps with BetMGM. Also very easy. Create a BetMGM sportsbook account. I think you know your personal information, so that should be very easy. You deposit at least $10 up to $1,000, depending on what you want to bet. If you bet a $10 bet and lose, you get $10 back in free bets. Up to $1,000, you get $1,000 back. Make your first paid bet. Your bet must settle to qualify for the Stokastic subscription. After you've completed these steps, you'll receive an email from BetMGM with instructions for redeeming your 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. This is no strings attached. It is literally that simple. Speaking English is a lot harder than this deal here, so go check it out. Links are in the description. Let's move on to the next one. Arizona Coyotes, 2.4 total. Heading into New Jersey, the Devils have a 4.3 total. My goodness, that is a large total. Vitek Vanacek got banged up in the last game, so it could be Akita Schmid for the Devils tonight. Probably Vejmelka for the Coyotes, who has had an excellent month of November. Yeah. Coyotes, I don't have much interest in them, like even with Schmid and net, like maybe a one-off here and there, but I'm probably out on Arizona tonight. On the Devils side, I think like there's like obviously there's two lines to like here. Like Nico Hischier and Fabian Zetterlund have been very, very good, and they're both on the top power play. So I think it's not just like automatically going back to Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt here. I think there's a discussion between two lines.
Yeah, you're right about Vejmelka. In the month of November, he had that one bad game. I think it was against Dallas where the team just got blew out by Dallas. Other than that, I'm looking at a 940 or above save percentage in all his games, 970 or above in 3 out of 5. Like if you're wondering why the Arizona Coyotes are doing well, it's because in 80% of their games this month, their goalie has saved at least 94% of the shots. I get that people kind of want to look for a nice story. The team itself has gone through a little bit of turmoil with all the, ownership problems and the rink issues, let's call them. At the end of the day, this is still a bottom 5 team by expected goals against so far this season. Bottom 5 team by actual goals against, all of 5-on-5. So eventually Vejmelka won't save 94% of the shots that face them. Problem is there's going to be a lot of New Jersey ownership here tonight, obviously, right? Like there's going to be a ton of Devils ownership. It's even especially where none of the guys are really that expensive. Jack Hughes is the only player over $7K and he's 7,400, I think. You get Zetterlund line 1, power play 1 at 4,300. Jesper Bratt's only 6,600. Like there's going to be a ton of ownership here on the New Jersey Devils. I think I would go back to that Hischier and Zetterlund line, honestly. That Arizona top line, however they do it, last game they went to Boyd, Keller, and Hayton. It seems like they change up that top line almost every game, and you'll never get news about it, but it doesn't really matter. All the combinations have been pretty bad defensively. 3.4 expected goals against for that Arizona top line. Barrett Hayton's not shooting, which means they're not generating a ton of offense. Like I think it's, that top line for New Jersey, 3.9 expected goals, 4 per 60, 4 actual goals, 4 per 60. Zetterlund shooting a lot with the ice time that he's given. I think you just go right back to that New Jersey top line of Hischier, Zetterlund, and I would even add in Tatar because he does get meaningful minutes, 14 to 16 minutes. He's playing very, very well so far this year, and he's going to probably come in way lower owned than the other guys. So New Jersey won for me in this game. I'll just briefly mention Arizona too. The Kraus line, Kraus, Maselli, and Bukestad. They've started to play a little bit better. They're actually 50% expected goal share, which feels unfathomable on this roster, but they're actually doing it. And they're getting ice time. Like there are some games they're playing like 18 or 19 minutes a game. And if New Jersey's down to their AHL goalies, we saw their AHL goalies in the second half of last season. They posted like an 880 save percentage. So I don't know if I'm full stacking Arizona, but I think there's some merit to like one-offing some of the guys on that Arizona 2 line. I'm thinking specifically Lawson Kraus as he's starting to shoot a little bit. So maybe some one-off guys from Arizona 2, but it's New Jersey 1 I like most here.
Yeah, I think that line will get lower ownership than Hughes and Bratt just because Hughes and Bratt have been doing it for longer. Hischier has had an excellent season, though. So don't sleep on him. On the blue line, Dougie Hamilton, 7,300. I think he's fine to add in. John Marino, Ryan Graves, Severson. Like, they're still really cheap. Severson's min price on DraftKings. Marino's 2,700. Ryan Graves, 3,200. John Marino almost had the shot bonus last game. I think, you don't expect that from him every night, but I think his peripherals have started to creep up. So I'm fine with all those punts.
Yeah, I think this is a good game to kind of go grab some punts from defensemen. Even Josh Brown for Arizona, he's a guy that can block shots. His problem had been that, he doesn't. I think they went 7 defensemen last game. I'd have to double check, so maybe he won't get a ton of ice time. But his problem had been he was like 3,900 or 4,000 on DK, where he's priced down to 3,300. Definitely a shot block bonus type of guy on DraftKings. But I think I might be going back to the Ryan Graves but Severson, if you need a 2,500 min punt on DK, just fine.
For sure. Let's move on to our first circus of the night. We have the Columbus Blue Jackets heading into the Island. Miserable experience. New York Islanders have a 3.7 total. Zach Werenski out for the year. Nick Blankenberg broke some bones. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks. Oh, boy.
Adam Bachfest.
Yeah. Adam Bachwest season maybe, but.
No, he's out.
Oh, he's out as well, yeah.
Yeah, he's out. So is Eric Goodbranson. Four out of their 6 starting defensemen are out. That I think Goodbranson being out actually helps them, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, so Jake Bean is going to be running the top power play unit. Jake Bean, fan favorite of mine. Also means that Peak and Gavrikov are going to see some heavy minutes tonight. There's probably going to be some heavy ownership on the Islanders tonight. And this is one of those chalk spots that if it is chalk, like, I'm probably not going to play them just because, like, I don't know. Like, Brock Nelson, 6,200, Matt Barzal, like, the prices are good. The line combinations aren't great. Maybe you do something with the power play. I just want to see ownership because if they're approaching 15-20%, I'm probably going to take a pass, but this is a very, very good spot.
Yeah, I'm wondering how all these injuries work out for Columbus because Eric Goodbranson was honestly one of the weirdest signings I've seen in the NHL in a few years.
That's the off-season story, though.
Him getting 4x4 is just wild. Like, I don't like talking trash about professional athletes because clearly they're a million times better at their job than I will ever be at hockey, right? But Goodbranson's just got, ran over all season long by the opposition. His expected goal share, 30%. Actual goal share, 30%. Like, you're getting outscored by a margin of more than 2-1 when he was on the ice. So that's why I said I think him being injured might actually help this team. The problem is that Werenski and Bachfest are both injured as well. And, take Blake Blankenberg for what he was worth. He only played a few games. We don't know exactly how good he was. But Bachfest and Werenski were the only 2 defensemen Columbus had to have a positive offensive impact on the team this season. Nobody else did on the blue line. Not Bean, not Gavrikov, not Peak. All the guys that are left were all negative offensive impacts for Columbus of 5-on-5 this year. So it's the balance. Like, yeah, I think they get better with Goodbranson out, but I also think they get worse offensively with Werenski and Bachfest out. So maybe Columbus isn't as bad defensively as they have been at times because now they don't have to give minutes to Goodbranson. But at the same time, they're going to have trouble generating offense. And, up against Ilya Sorokin, I don't want to have a line that's going to be relying strictly on percentages. He's a guy that can just shut them down. So I'm out on Columbus. Right now, I'll just say I like the Islanders' top line, Bailey, Wahlstrom, and Barzal. Wahlstrom was still only played 10 minutes in the last game, which is a bit concerning for me. But he can get there because he is a sniper. So I think you have to at least consider that line. They've been, Barzal and Wahlstrom, 2.8 expected goals for so far this year, 5 actual goals for. They've been playing pretty well offensively. It's just a matter of Wahlstrom actually getting the minutes to get there. they typically see third and fourth line matchups, like with all the depth gone from the Columbus blue line. Third and fourth line matchups, depth defensemen. I really like the Islanders top line in this game, but I think you're going to see high ownership on all three Islanders lines, to be real here.
I agree. And I didn't mention Columbus because, like you mentioned, who's moving the puck out of their own zone? Werenski was easily their best puck mover. Bachwist, their second best puck mover. I don't see any, like Jake Bean, like maybe he moves the puck, but like these other guys are more defensive oriented, even though they're not great defensively. So like Columbus top line, I'm out on just because I'm worried. One, it's, Sorokin. Two, I'm worried that they're going to get hemmed into their own zone a lot because they don't have many puck moving defensemen. Let's talk about that blue line. Noah Dobson, 6,400. Ryan Pulak, 4,100, I think are the guys. You want to go Pelech, 3,700. Mayfield, Pelech is 3,800. Mayfield is 3,700. For me, on the Columbus side, Peak or Gavrikov for shot blocks. I like Jake Bean, but just not tonight because he's probably going to be power play oriented. Islanders don't take too many penalties, and they have a pretty good penalty kill. So probably just Gavrikov or Peak.
Yeah, I think Peak is my favorite defenseman in this game. I can't wait to see what Noah Dobson's ownership might be. I think it's going to be pretty high here. I think Peak is the only guy that I'll really mention that is standing out to me because of his price and expected ice time.
Yeah, if I'm Columbus right now, I'm tanking for Bedard. That's just me.
Well, they were tanking before all these injuries anyway, so.
Quiet tanking. Now they can loudly tank and say it's because of injuries. New York Rangers. My New York Rangers. 3.2 heading into Nashville, where it was snowing this morning. The Predators have a 2.9 total. Would imagine it's going to be Igor against the Juice. Igor hasn't looked great. I mean, like, he's been fine. He just hasn't looked like Igor. Rangers put up an 8 spot. The floodgates finally opened for their shooting. Jimmy Vesey didn't actually look out of place on that top line. I think he'll be fine up there. Like, he's not going to be great by any stretch, but he's an NHLer, and he'll be competent up there. He's kind of like Walmart just for fast. I don't know who that's bad for everyone there, but
yeah, nobody wants that comparison at all.
Like, that's kind of what he is. Pretty good power play matchup for the Rangers tonight. Nashville Predators don't have a very good penalty kill. Saros has been bailing them out, but the Rangers have one of the best power plays in the league. I think you do some sort of power play stack tonight if you want some savings. I think going back to the kids line against Nashville depth is definitely an option. On the Nashville side, they're just like, you want to go to the top line, I think that's fine. There just isn't much there for me.
Yeah, Nashville's top line just does not play well this year. 2.3 expected goals for, 3 expected goals against, 2.9 actual goals for per 60 minutes, 4.7 against. Like, a lot of it is shooting percentage driven. We kind of have to keep that in mind. I was just double checking this morning, but Matt Duchene we're a month into the season now. He's still shooting 0% at 5-on-5. Philip Forsberg's shooting 0% on the power play. Funny thing, I was looking at Philip Forsberg's career power play stats. Going back to the 2016-17 season, he's alternated good and bad shooting seasons. 6%, 26%, 9%, 12%, 7%, 19%, and 0% this year. Like, it's just a weird little pattern he's got going, but he's not scoring on the power play. The Rangers top line, not bad defensively, kind of regardless of who they have as the third man. I think Kakko makes them the best defensively, but like, they're not that bad regardless of who's there. And of course, they still have Igor behind them. So I'm pretty much, I'm out on Nashville here tonight. The Rangers, they don't take a ton of penalties. Nashville, kind of has to need a little bit of power play opportunity for as bad as Philip Forsberg shooting on the power play. For me, this is about the Rangers power play. I agree with you. Nashville is allowing the most shots per 60 minutes against on the penalty kill. So when you say Saros is saving them, he is. He can't save them every night, and hasn't really had that great of a season so far this year. So yeah, I think a Rangers power play stack makes a ton of sense. in this game. Kreider's not that expensive. He's all the way down to 6K. Panarin's under 7K. You can get, Trocheck still isn't that expensive. So you can get a pretty decent Rangers power play stack in here against very bad Nashville penalty kill. And I think that's the approach I would take in this one. Like, I don't think this is a Nashville game for me. I imagine they come in with reasonably low ownership, but where Duchesne's starting to get so cheap, maybe not. Like, maybe people kind of gravitate to them because they are I think they're around 15K on DraftKings. So we've seen that line at 20K before. I think they might see some ownership here. So it's Rangers power play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not playing Nashville in 1 to 3 lineups. If you're getting to 20 to 150, you can pop them into your portfolio unless they're like super chalky, and then I'd be under on them. But moving to the blue line, we have Roman Josi, 7,500. That's actually not a bad price for him. Adam Fox, pretty good price on him as well, 6,600. I think you can add Fox into the power play stacks. If you're looking for a one-off from this game, it's probably Trouba. Keandre Miller is fine at 3,200. I guess Ekholm and McDonough are fine for punts, but don't really inspire much confidence.
Yeah. I want to say Libor Hayek because he did move to the top pair with Fox at times, but no, I'm not going to. I think this is obviously a good spot to use Adam Fox with that power play matchup. Ryan McDonough probably might need to block some shots on the PK. So where his price is getting way down on DK, I think he's fine. So Fox for power play, maybe McDonough for some blocks on DK, but that's about it.
I think I just had some palpitations. We almost had a Libor, Libor out.
No, we don't have a Libor tail. Don't worry.
Let's take a deep breath. All right. That caught me off guard. Don't forget, you can find this show and all of our strategy shows on Stokastic podcast channels. Main channel with all of our content, or individual sports channels if you just like one. And like I said, if you're driving home in traffic or you can't see the shows live, that's the best way to catch the shows. When I'm not on the strategy show, I will pop it on podcast version when I'm driving. Love it. Leave a 5-star review. Helps us keep these shows free. It's important to keep these shows free for y'all. Hopefully we can do that. Smash that like, leave a 5-star review. Booyah. Move on to the next one. Carolina Hurricanes 3.1 total hitting Colorado. The Avs have a 3.5 total. This is an interesting one for me because someone got hurt, right? Yeah, Teravainen got hurt, and they moved Aho with Netchis and Svechnikov. And that line, as Niehaus likes to say, that I say, is peak nitrous. Now they're probably going to get the McKinnon matchup, so maybe this isn't the night for it, but Colorado depth, not great with all these injuries. Colorado PK, not great, so maybe there's some merit to going to Colorado 1 here. Colorado 1, obviously in play. This is probably as tough of a matchup they've had this season. Carolina has a very good PK. Now, it's not going to be Freddie, but, Ronta's not a bum, so this could be a night where we see some lower-owned Colorado 1.
Yeah, I'm wondering about the Carolina lines because we mentioned last game they might go to Svechnikov, Necas, and Aho. Now, it took an injury, but it's 3 games in a row now where Carolina, by after the first period has gone to a top line of Necas, Aho, and Svechnikov. It's like, for the love of God, just start the game with them. You know what I mean? You're going there every single game anyway. Just start the game with them. But we don't, because Carolina didn't practice yesterday, so we don't know what the lines are going to be like without Teravainen. I'm guessing Svechnikov, Aho, Necas on the top line as a counter to that heavy, top-heavy Colorado lineup. But we just don't know. That Colorado 1 line really hasn't been great defensively so far this year. 2.7 expected goals against per 60 minutes on the season. They played 125 minutes together, so they're getting up there in that sample. They're just getting great goaltending behind them when they're on the ice. So you can't always rely on great goaltending. I think we might see a lot of power plays in this game, both well above average and time shorthanded per game. Carolina drawing nearly 4 power play opportunities per game. So I think there's a chance that we see a fair amount of special teams in this one. So even if, this is a later start, even if Carolina doesn't go to that top line, you're still going to get all those guys, Necas, Aho, and Svechnikov. You're still going to get them all on the power play together. And like it's, the Colorado penalty kill as being good this year, but it's definitely not been amongst the elite. It's, about the middle of the league by expected goals against, much worse by actual goals against. So I think this is a spot where you can go back to Carolina 1. I know it kind of feels weird going against into a pretty good Colorado team, but like I said, top line hasn't been super great this year. The defensive depth, we'll see if Bowen Byram or Sam Girard might be able to return, but the defensive depth has taken a big hit. So honestly, I think of everything in this game, Svechnikov, Aho, Necas. I might be going back there as a top line / top power play stack for Carolina here tonight.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I like them tonight. Colorado's depth is not great either. And like that Colorado one's defensive numbers are not like 2.7 goals against is like league average-ish, which isn't great for a top line. So yeah, Carolina 1 definitely makes some sense. On the blue line, Cale Makar, Devin Toews is going to play massive minutes again tonight if Byram and Girard are out. So I'm fine with them. Brett Pesce, Brett Burns, probably the guys for me on Carolina.
Yeah, I think with that power play spot, you're fine going back to Brent Burns. Devin Toews up to 26 minutes in the last game. His price still hasn't come up that much. I mean, it is into the 6,000s on DK. That's a little high, but it's not excessive. I think like on FanDuel, I would just pass on him and go to Makar because I think they're only like 600 or 700 apart. So on FanDuel, it's Makar. On DraftKings, I like the savings going with Toews.
Winnipeg Jets 3.0 total heading into Calgary. The Calgary Flames have a surprisingly high 3.7. I think that means Huberdeau might be back tonight.
I mean, with the
guess so.
maybe
We
still
won't.
out.
Yeah, maybe. What's his face is pumping that.
Ruzicka.
What's his name? Yeah, Ruzicka pumping the. Not a huge that total tonight. If Huberdeau is back, then yeah, maybe that Winnipeg doesn't have a very good PK. Our play stack on the Winnipeg side, I like that top line tonight. Flowchart says if this is a tough matchup, which it kind of is, you play them. Maybe they come in low owned. That line with Appleton is starting to get better numbers. I like Winnipeg 1 tonight.
I was gonna go to Winnipeg too, actually, because the Calgary second line has been pretty high event.
Yeah.
Now they've settled down a little bit without Mangiapane, but the Calgary second line has typically been high event with Nazem Kadri and Dylan Dubé there. It's a matter of how they run their lines. Sometimes they haven't been sending out Kadri against second lines; they've been using him against top lines. So in that instance, if that holds, if Kadri and Dubé and Coleman are going to be going out against Scheifele and Connor, which our buddy at Line Matching on Twitter says is a distinct possibility here tonight, I think going back to Scheifele, Connor, and Appleton is perfectly acceptable here. As we mentioned in the last show, starting to get better offensively, 2.8 expected goals for per 60 minutes. That's a big increase over where they started after their first few games. Appleton's even been playing like 16 minutes a game. He's not like one of those Oliver Wahlstrom 10-minute third wheels, even though Wahlstrom does shoot quite a bit. So, yeah, I think going back to Winnipeg 1 is perfectly acceptable here. The Calgary top line is perfectly correlated on the power play. Ruzicka was on the top power play unit last game with Huberdeau out. We talked about how Ruzicka's looked pretty good in the AHL. He's looked good in the NHL so far. He definitely hasn't looked out of place on that top line. And Tyler Toffoli is really starting to shoot a lot more. So is Elias Lindholm, actually. So I actually like both top lines in this game. I'm going to wait to ownership runs to kind of make a decision. But if the Calgary top line doesn't have much ownership, they're going against maybe the third and fourth lines from Winnipeg. And the Winnipeg penalty kill, not very good. And Calgary top line perfectly correlated on the power play. If Huberdeau isn't back, I think I might be going to Calgary 1 here.
For sure. To the blue lines, Uyghur, Hannafin are my guys. Nate Schmidt on the Winnipeg side. I guess you can include Morrissey if you want on power play stacks. He just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah. Morrissey's he's starting to actually produce this year, which is a little bit of a difference for him. We kind of have to see what's going to go on with the Calgary defense here. I think Chris Tanev, there's a chance that he could be back tonight. If he's back, it will depress the ice time of guys like Uyghur and guys like Hannafin, and especially like Zadorov. So kind of have to wait to see if he's back in. I don't mind Rasmus Anderson at his DK price in this power play matchup. He's under 5K. I think Anderson might be my favorite defenseman in this game. Hannafin just fine. He's really racking up the peripherals. So I think either of those two guys for me, Anderson or Hannafin.
Cool. 3 games left. 6-7 minutes to get through them. St. Louis Blues with a 2.7 total heading into Vegas. The Knights have a 3.5 or 3.9. I'm sorry. Bennington has not looked good this season. Vegas 1. All aboard. Vegas 2. All aboard. Blues top line of Thomas, Tarasenko, Buchnevich, they're together. I think you have to, in your MME mix, go back until they start scoring. They're shooting. They're just not scoring.
Yeah. I'll say I'm out on the St. Louis top 2 lines. What I will mention is Shen, Kyrou, and Barbashev. I know I kind of talk badly about Shen, but it's mostly just defensive issues. He's still producing offensively. We know Kyrou is really, really good offensively. They're going to get third and fourth line matchups from Vegas. And like that Howden, Kessel, Amadio line for Vegas.
Sounds so ridiculous.
I don't think that's going to be very good. I think Shen and Kyrou makes a decent, like super low owned, cheap 2-man for St. Louis here tonight. But this is a Vegas game that I like. It's Vegas 1 for me. We worried how they might do when their schedule got a little bit tougher. Well, they just keep running teams over. Vegas 1, 4.4 expected goals, 4 per 60 minutes, only 1.8 against. They're really dominating the competition. They're all in the top power play together. The St. Louis penalty kill is awful. I think from everything in this game, it's Vegas 1 that I like the most, but I think a 2-man is Shen, Kyrou going against the third, fourth lines from Vegas. Nice little sneaky depth option, especially if you're playing a ton of lineups and you want to get some more expensive guys in.
On the blue line, Pietrangelo up to 7K. It's a bit pricey. I guess you can correlate him in. Blue side, not much there at all.
No, like this isn't really a game where I'm looking for my defenseman. Like I said, bad St. Louis penalty kills. So if you want to gamble on an expensive Pietrangelo over on DK, I think that's fine. He's really expensive on FanDuel too. It's almost prohibitive at that price, but maybe that makes him contrarian by nature. Just no defenseman really for me.
Don't forget to take advantage of the risk-free Bet MGM offer. Free bet of up to $1,000 and 2 months of Stokastic Platinum for free. Just click the link in the description. Let's get to the last 2 circuses of the night, and boy, oh boy, are they interesting games. Chicago Blackhawks, 3.1 total, heading into Anaheim. Los Patos, the Ducks, have a 3.5 total. That Chicago top line always projects well. I'm not interested in them. I mean, I think like a Kane, Domi 2-man is fine if their ownership's in check because the Ducks have severe defensive issues. But for me, this is about the Ducks top 6, Ducks power play. That's what I'm on.
Yeah, I will mention Chicago did break up the top line in their last game. They put Athanasiou with Jonathan Toews and then moved Kurashev up with Kane and Domi. Whether those stick, I guess we'll find out in morning skate later. But the Chicago top line's been bad with or without Athanasiou. Like, it doesn't really matter. for me, this is about the Comtois line. I hate calling it the Comtois line. I don't know why I just did that.
It sounds good.
Yeah, but they put Terry with Trevor Zegras in their last game, and Terry and Zegras have been very, very good together this year. They've both been playing like 20 to 21 minutes, 3.2 expected goals for generated between the two of them. They probably will miss that Taves, Radish, and if Kurashev's still there, Kurashev line, they won't line up against them. So Terry and Zegras is probably what I like best, assuming that that's what goes in together. I think some sort of Chicago power play stack makes sense. Anaheim does take a lot of penalties. So I think you're fine doing like a Kane, Taves, or Kane and Radish or something like that. So maybe some Chicago power play stacks, but it's about Terry and Zegras and Comtois for me in this one.
Yep. Let's get to the last game real quickly. Detroit Red Wings going into LA to face the Kings, which is just a wild late hammer. The Kings have had 2 back-to-back shutouts or something like that. No, 1-0, 2-1, very low scoring games. I like going back to LA here. Just got to see ownership. Yeah, I'm on the LA side.
Yeah, particularly it's LA one for me. Kopitar, Kempe, and Velarde. They typically are going out against second lines. That second line for Detroit has really struggled this year. Andrew Kopp has been just bad for them. There's no other way to say it. He's just been bad, especially defensively. So I think that Kings top line is in a really good spot. They're all playing about 19 to 21 minutes over their last 5 games. Kempe's 0 points in his last 5 games, but 20 shots. We know he's getting his chances. So Kings 1 for me. Probably nothing from the Detroit side. Kings drawing a ton of power plays, so that top line perfectly correlated. Detroit penalty kill's been good, but the Kings get 4 or 5 or even 6 chances here tonight. I like their chances, so Kings top line.
Yep. Coming up right after us, the NBA Strategy Show with Emac and Adam. That's at 10 a.m. Eastern. And while you're here, don't forget to check out OddsShopper. It's got everything you need to make sure you're maximizing your profits. You can shop bets, create your own parlays, using our parlay builder, finding arbitrage opportunities, and of course, most importantly, you can shop bets to find the best price available. Oddshopper.com. It's actually really awesome. You should sign up. Couple seconds left. Who you like in net?
I actually don't mind Georgiev for Colorado. It feels like if the Avs win that game, it's one of 2 ways. They either just outscore them 7-5, or Georgiev has a really good game against Carolina. So don't mind Georgiev. Don't mind Shesterkin as well. I'll always take Shesterkin. Doesn't matter the matchup. I think Jake Allen makes an interesting choice as a somewhat cheap option against Pittsburgh at home. And I'll just jump in with my hat trick pick. My hat trick pick is Troy Terry. My hat trick pick is going to be Mika Zibanejad. All right. I like it. Terry Zibanejad. Let's go, boys. For Slim Cliffy, I'm your host, Josh Harris. We will see you in Discord tonight. We'll be back on Monday for a shorter slate, but we'll be back. Good luck, everybody, tonight. Good luck, everyone.